Hey guys, this is Dr. Hub. In case you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe to learn and grow daily. Now let's understand the dural venous sinuses. Dural venous sinuses. So before we start, we will be looking at the diagram so that it's easier to understand. So this is the sagittal section. So here it is sagittal, superior sagittal sinus. Next, this is the straight sinus. Goes as the inferior sagittal sinus. Next, we have the occipital sinus and transverse sinus here. Then comes the sigmoid sinus. The straight sinus. This is the inferior sagittal sinus, superior sagittal sinus. Now let's put it to the side and get into discussion. So first is the dural venous sinuses and where it is drained. So there are unpaired sinuses. So some unpaired sinuses. So unpaired sinuses, it includes the SSS, superior sagittal sinus. So where does it drain into? The superior sagittal sinus, it confluence of the sinuses or continues as the right transverse sinus. So it's a confluence of sinuses and it continues as the right transverse sinus. Next is inferior sagittal sinus. So inferior sagittal sinus, it joins the great cerebral vein to form the straight sinus. So joins the great cerebral vein. So the inferior sagittal sinus, it joins the great cerebral vein and it forms a straight sinus. Next is the straight sinus. Straight sinus forms a left transverse sinus. Left transverse sinus. Next we look into the occipital sinus. So occipital sinus is a confluence of all sinuses. So this was all about the unpaired structures, that is superior sagittal sinus, inferior sagittal sinus, straight sinus and occipital sinus. Next we move on to the paired sinus. So under this paired sinus, it includes the SPS, that is the superior petrosal sinus. So this is nothing but a transverse sinus. Next, so it drains into the transverse sinus. The inferior petrosal sinus, it drains into the internal jugular vein. Next comes the transverse sinus. Transverse sinus, it continues as a sigmoid sinus. Next, moving on, the sigmoid sinus, it continues with the internal jugular vein. Next, the cavernous sinus, it is nothing but the superior and inferior petrosal sinus. Superior and inferior petrosal sinus. To watch more videos like these and grow daily, subscribe to the Dr. Hub channel.